It's only been probably the last 6 months to a year that I've actually really thought about why Iowa. And since then, I've really focused on why are people moving here? Honestly, like asking, trying to find some market research myself and then read as much as I possibly can. Then also just looking around what townships are growing. You can see massive growth happening.
From cornfields to high rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa Show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines. Here's your host, Neil Timmins.
I've got Nick Weiland here. Nick, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm excited for you to be here. Say, for the audience to say, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yep, so Nick Weiland. I've been in the military for about 12 years. Served active duty Air Force for about 5 years, and then ended up coming back here locally to Des Moines to serve in the Air National Guard right at the Des Moines Airport. I was a logistics guy by trade, enlisted, and then eventually transitioned to the officer side, logistics, and then got into an executive role, and then moved over into intelligence. So that's where I'm at currently, full-time military, but really have a passion for investing, and I'm sure we'll get into that here shortly.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for your service. Yeah. Sincerely appreciate it. You're from where originally?
So I'm from Adel originally, and came back into West Des Moines area when I moved back from active duty service. Yep.
It's terrific. Talk to me about investing. Give me a little of your journey there.
Okay, yes. So I'm sure a lot of folks have heard of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's kind of where my journey started into investing into real estate, at least the initial thought, right? And changing my perspective a little bit onto the traditional investing into more of the real estate side of things. So that was the initial thought. When I was active duty, I was reading books and getting kind of more familiar with the process, or at least trying to learn the process. Then I moved back here into Iowa, and I've been doing like traditional investing into like the stock market like that for several years since I was a young teen, actually. But I decided to take the leap of faith into real estate investing in about 2017 into my first house, which was actually an investment property in Ames. So I wanted to get into a market that I knew would have consistent rentership, right? And students, there's a lot of people that go pros and cons to renting to students, but that was kind of my first focus, is how do we get into real estate investing, and where do I know renters will be for sure. Yeah. And from then on, it was basically a learning curve into what does owning a rental look like? How do we manage it? And how does the asset perform? And you learn along the way. And then from there, I bought a duplex in Winterset, which is a little bit smaller town right outside of Des Moines as well. I bought a house in West Des Moines that was eventually converted into a rental as well. Bought some land in Indianola, as well as a 6-unit building, which was my first partnership actually with a family member in Newton. And then since then, bought a house in Ames this year, and we just closed with my family actually on a duplex in Des Moines right across from the airport, and in process of closing on a mixed-use residential and commercial property in a smaller town right outside of Des Moines here. So very excited to continue to invest locally. As you can see, I've kind of have a broad market area.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you say locally, that means different things for different folks.
Right.
Because what you would say locally, I would say not local.
Right.
But if you're not from Iowa, these things are spread out a little bit geographically.
Yeah. Right.
Not just geographically, you're into different markets, which present different and probably unique challenges from a management standpoint to a renter standpoint, like who's the tenant that goes into these. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that in a second, but take me to your very first one.
Sure.
To 2017, you bought one in Ames. Was that a single family home?
Single family home, 4-bed, 2-bath, right? In Ames, which I came to learn is like basically all per bedroom is kind of how student rentals work.
Student level, yeah.
And so that's kind of didn't know it at the time, but 4-bedroom actually worked out in terms of ROI quite a bit better. It's just something I kind of stepped into and learned out of, right? Yeah. But it was a great asset to start out with. There were some learning curves that I, working with the city for the first time to like get this thing up to rental code certification, and I had to pave a driveway, right? That wasn't an initial budget, but you learn through it all.
Yep.
And for me, that was a huge learning. Like we had to move a few things in the house to get things up to code. And it was just a great way to start, right? And the moment's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But I loved the process after that. Yeah.
How did you finance that property?
That was traditionally financed. I'd saved up quite a bit throughout my time on active duty.
Yep.
I had a good chunk of money saved up, and I literally put 20% down on a traditional investment. At the time, the prices were great, right? But
the interest rates,
interest rates were
and
great.
the prices
Prices were great.
Yeah.
But the thing is I guess we all talk about when a rate's coming down, it doesn't matter. I think the moral of the story is you got to buy, right? And refinance along the way. So I think that's a huge way to do it.
You buy right at any interest rate, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Today's market or yesterday's.
That's
in
right.
this case, 2017 market. How did you manage that property?
Yep. So I'm still self-managing that. So I started out just self-managing, put my name on the line as the manager, and just made things work, honestly, and try to find a way to kind of manage. I wouldn't say long-term, right? Or out of town. It's kind of about 45 minutes away. So not too bad to manage, but found ways to automate along the way, right? And put systems in place to try to mitigate a lot of the little things and save a lot of time, because I'm about systems and saving time.
Yeah. Coming from that logistics background.
Yeah.
Sure. Give me one or two examples of systems or a checklist, perhaps, or softwares that you've used or utilized today that have helped with the management side.
Sweet. Yeah. So honestly, I'm a simple kind of guy. Like I don't like to try to overcomplicate things. So we use like publicly available platforms like Zillow has been kind of a hitter for us. Facebook every once in a while, depending on the actual asset in the town. But for me, Zillow's just been great for like just getting things listed, and a lot of the tenants, at least in a lot of our properties, are searching there anyway.
Sure.
So systems, that's kind of what we use on the back end, though. We kind of created a system that is more like based on Google and a lot of their kind of publicly available platforms like Google Drive and Sheets and stuff like that to be able to track maintenance requests and back end, bookkeeping, all that stuff, to basically I can have a live update of kind of where my cash flow sits currently live, like projected throughout the year, next year, all those systems in place to be able to pull across different tabs and kind of automate things. My wife has helped me a little bit too. She's a computer programmer. We haven't made anything too crazy yet, but we're working hopefully in the future to create a little bit bigger and robust system for that.
So you're using Zillow then you mentioned some others, Facebook, for example. Is it largely from a marketing standpoint are you using Zillow as well from a screening and background check standpoint?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've just stuck to that because it's been easy for us, and the tenants assume a lot of the actual fees. They've raised them maybe once over the last several years, but honestly, just being able to get a report at the end that says kind of all the history. We do use apartments.com on the 6-unit building in Newton, but the rest are primarily going to be through Zillow and just keeping it easy.
You're collecting payments through what platforms?
Mostly Zillow. For some of these that I've got a few under my name that I just use Venmo because it's been easy for a lot of the tenants around here. But some are, apartments.com once again for the larger one.
And on the 6-unit, you can run your ACH through apartments.com for free at the landlord level.
Right.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Winterset was the next one after Ames.
Yeah.
I'm curious, geography-wise, what took you to Winterset versus buy another one of Ames?
Right. Well, good question. Mostly was price, right? At the time, it's like I just tapped into a big reserve fund that I had ready to go, right? So I bought that. With the following year, I bought my primary residence. So it was actually Ames, primary residence, using the VA home loan, and then Winterset the following year. So it was a boom, 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 all within actually less than 2 years.
Yeah.
And so going to an area that I knew I could affordability, I guess affordability was a key factor. And so it was reaching out, running numbers. Essentially, a lot of what I do is run numbers, make sure that the numbers work, right? Like you said earlier, it's like all numbers driven. So, but for me, it was the entry point. And then I also kind of jokingly wanted to learn different markets, right? Sub-markets of, I call it Des Moines Metro. Some people don't see that as Metro, right? But I see anything within about 30 miles is Metro to me. But anyway, I wanted to learn these different sub-markets, and there's different nuances to these cities, right? And these, I guess, more rural areas too. And I've loved learning through it, right? There's been hurdles once again, but at the end of the day, part of it is me also wanting to understand, how do these cities operate? How do tenants in that area look for, I guess, affordable units, stuff like that. And then me being able to kind of do my own market research to figure out where are we investing next. So I'm sure we'll get this in the future too, but I've actually got a lot of my family involved into, owning and managing their own real estate. And so that's a big thing for me because it took me several years to get a lot of my family members on board. And that's first me learning, first me doing a lot of the stuff, and then me selling essentially this to my parents and some like my brothers over the last couple of years. And that's been an awesome process too, right?
Yeah.
But
if you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
I suspect that took you going out and doing it, building the, some of that internal fortitude to be able to break through, learn some new things, overcome all the fears and anxieties, all the things one does when they have to try something new for the first time, and then put some things in place to get some wins to build you the confidence to actually want to involve your family.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Basically go sell something I didn't really know how to do, right?
Sure.
Or have some experience in. And that's my full, I guess, motto now is like, I have experience, right? We all have different depths of experience.
That's
and it's been neat to like be able to, I guess, bring that to the table. And also like, how else can we learn collectively? And we all have really learned a ton over the last couple of years doing this now somewhat together. But
tell me about, I'm curious the Winterset and then the units you have in Newton. We're into a non-student driven area. Are the tenants stickier there? Do they stay there longer than what one would see in Des Moines, for example?
Yeah. So from my experience, I've really only turned over Winterset once each unit. So I've owned that since 2018, I believe, late 2018.
In 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tenant, I guess, retention has been great for that one, right? Not a lot of nuances in that city, right? The city itself is quite a bit smaller.
Sure.
Not a lot of regulation in terms of like rental code and all that stuff. So a lot of flexibility, right? Rent prices are quite a bit lower, but like per unit and bed and bath count, it's all relative anyway, right? To the area. So like in terms of ROI, it's actually performing really well. And the people, I literally have one of our tenants text me like thrilled to pay rent. And honestly, like somehow thrilled to pay rent late with a late fee. And like, you just don't see that very often. And so that's one experience that I've had. Every once in a while there's a few hiccups, but honestly, that's been one of the more hands-off things for me is that property. And then Newton, different market itself, right? Learning through owning the first commercial property we've had, right, is 6 units, anything over 4 there. So like, first of all, just traditional like lending versus commercial lending. So it was learning that, right? Setting up an LLC, all these things and that was my first partnership. So learning and navigating what that looks like, that ended up being with my brother. But like, what does all this stuff look like? And we can hear it all day long, but actually putting it in play and actually learning through the process is a whole different thing. And then also how do tenants, I guess, perform, not really perform, but how do they stay there? What does rent look like there? What does rent growth how does it work there? It's completely different than anywhere else in the Des Moines area. So most of our tenants have stayed there. About 50% have turned over, which I think that's just naturally due to we had to bring market or rents up to semi-market price, right? We didn't go straight up and go into trying to beat out everybody. But honestly, every time somebody left there, we renovated the units because that had deferred maintenance, not deferred maintenance, but more, it needed a lot of just renovations in terms of getting units up to market standards. So we did a lot of work initially in turning all those units over to increase some of the rent prices too, but also we want to provide like quality living to our tenants. And I think they see that, right? And a lot of them have stayed because of that and they see what's going on. I don't think that was the case before, but this is a new thing. And we're working with the city too, to be like, how can we help inspire other people around here? And what else can we do? Are there ways we can work and collaborate together to win? So. Yeah, no,
that's terrific. Yeah. And as you said, 6 units, it's an apartment. It operates and functions and has a different level. Apartment dwellers tend to turn over at a higher pace than somebody, say, occupying a duplex at Winterset. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and you're right. Winterset, what a fantastic town, led by a great mayor down there. Beautiful little town. Isn't it?
It's growing. And
it is.
Got a McDonald's in there now. So you can see, there's projected growth there too. So it's good.
as Des Moines continues, the greater Des Moines area continues to grow, everybody who's close to it I think, is a benefactor of growth here.
Oh, yeah.
You bought a piece of ground in Indianola. Tell me about that.
So that was kind of a dream piece of land that my wife and I, at that time, we had just gotten married and we were looking for like our dream property. Like, where would we build if we had to, or if we wanted to build off of pavement, like had multiple acres and a pond. It's like this came together, right? This piece came up. It was directly from a farmer. So it was really neat to be able to work kind of off market ish and work directly with the farmer and kind of like literally walk the property on like where we're going to do all that with. So people have asked, like, are you going to do anything crazy with it? Like putting on, I guess, an ADU or anything like that to make it some rentable area. But it's probably going to be more so for just building our dream home eventually one day. But right now it's ag land technically. And we get a little bit of rent from the just cash renting it out. So
how many acres?
It's 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah. So not huge, but
fantastic though. Huh?
It's beautiful. Yep.
You bought a duplex in Des Moines. So I'm curious if this question is, you got a duplex in Des Moines, you're in Des Moines, Winterset, West Des Moines, Ames, Newton. What have you learned? What are the big differences in dealing with the different municipalities?
Yeah. So this would be our first, we actually just closed on that one in Des Moines yesterday.
Oh, great.
Congrats. So we're moving on. Yeah. Thank you. Continue to move forward with that. But honestly, I've heard some horror stories with some of these municipalities. But honestly, for us, it's just provide quality standard like units and we don't have issues, right? So we're not actually
follow the rules.
Follow the rules.
Sure, right.
And so for us, it's not that hard and we've not had any issues, right? Ames was just my first experience from working with them on like, what does this regulation look like? But honestly, it's nothing to fear. It hasn't been for us. Newton hasn't been either, right? They've been pretty good to work with. But we're also setting a pace for like, what's the standard supposed to look like? For me, higher standard. Mm-hmm. So we don't usually have issues, right? I think some people try to skate by with the minimum and they have to do a lot more work, right, on the back end. And so for us, it's just how can we make this easy for everybody? And then the tenants benefit along the way, right? So that's just our philosophy.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm curious. So we talked about the financing structure in Ames. Tell me about some of the other ones. What kind of financing did you put in place there?
So Winterset would have been my first. That was 25% down because it was multi-unit, and at the time I had to put 25% down. But the purchase price of that was also pretty great for me at the time, about 2018. So that was traditionally financed as well, just as an investment property. Two investment properties right away, so a little bit higher rates there, which I hate seeing. But honestly, it's not that big of a difference between your standard single family dwelling. So it wasn't too bad. And then I moved into, the VA, buying my house that I lived in for about 4 or 5 years. That was VA financed. So that's a nuance that military have.
One of the best loans that exists.
Absolutely. Yeah. And kind of playing the long game, in 2022, I refinanced out of the VA loan because we had enough equity in the property to go to traditional, like conventional financing. And then that in theory freed up the VA loan to use multiple times. And so, and I didn't even have to do that, but now I have basically I can use it 2 to 3 more times, right? If we play the game correctly, essentially, and also obviously moving and doing all that, which we have and will do, right? I have a small family now, but we're going to use that VA loan at least 1 or 2 more times just to capitalize on the product, right? And it by far beats all the other rates. Obviously, you can put down 0%. And so I've definitely benefited, and I love and would love to continue to help people that are like, how do I do this? And what are the nuances? And I guess the full process. It's a great tool. So,
So you've come through this and you've learned a lot of things along the way. You want to bring some others with you. And so that for you means family.
Yeah.
And so how have you gotten part of your family involved in what you're doing and maybe educated them to do it themselves?
Yep. So honestly, it took about 2 years. So reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Reframing the Mind, and then practicing for a couple of years. And then, I guess simultaneously also kind of telling my parents were my first 2 that I really went after is just like, you guys have to get into this, right? They were semi-retired. My dad was retired from the military at the time. My mom was still in a corporate job. And then they both worked at a small business that they owned, Board and Brush in Clive, which they had since sold. But they were like working as managers and operators of a small business and like had the managerial experience and corporate experience kind of in their backing, but they had never, I guess, been exposed to real estate and what that, I guess, owner operator adventure looks like. So I was working through just challenging them in ways that they probably had never seen before. Right.
Sure.
And they know it now, is like, you guys need to get exposed to some of the stuff, or at least aspire to get into it. And so eventually they were able to jump in. I think their first one was actually a 4-unit, and then the second one was a 3-unit. And then since then we've partnered on one. That was actually this last house, that Des Moines duplex, which has been a broader family thing actually, but bringing in my other family members too, like my 2 brothers and their families. So it's just something I've really been passionate about. Family's been a huge thing for me growing up. It still will be. Both just my family of 4 and then extended family has been great to work with. And we're going to continue to grow. I promise you. So,
hi, it's Ava Baukamp, the investment relations manager for Neil's firm, Legacy Impact Investors. I'm inviting you to join us for our next investor workshop, our monthly legacy briefings. In these tactical Zoom calls, we cover topics and case studies for subjects such as taxes and depreciation, navigating macroeconomic shifts, and evaluating deals as a passive investor. At each virtual workshop, we are joined by an industry guest who covers their topic in 45 minutes or less. No fluff, no pitches, just education and conversation with an expert each month. Every workshop ends with live Q&A from Neil and our guest. All briefings happen on the last Tuesday of the month at 3 p.m. Central. If you can't make it live, recordings are sent out exclusively to those who've registered in advance. To join us on the last Tuesday of this month, visit legacybriefing.com. Go to legacybriefing.com to register. If you're a first-time registrant, I'll send you a free resource at sign up. Head to legacybriefing.com and I'll see you soon.
Why Iowa? You can do this anywhere, and certainly, being in the military, I'm certain you've been exposed to lots of places on the face of this planet.
Mm-hmm.
You could choose to live anywhere. Why do you choose to be here, and why do you choose to invest here?
Yes, that's a very good question. And honestly, it's only been probably the last 6 months to a year that I've actually really thought about why Iowa. Yeah. Before I was just like, how can I get properties and how can I maximize ROI and how can I set up processes? Well, I never thought about here until, like I said, 6 months ago. Yeah. And since then, I've really focused on why are people moving here? Honestly, like trying to find some market research myself and then read as much as I possibly can. But then also just looking around what towns and townships are growing around the Des Moines metro area. And you can see massive growth happening for us, massive growth, right? Sure. Maybe not like Dallas, Fort Worth area growth, but for Des Moines, sustainable growth is what I see. And a lot of infrastructure being poured in. The airport is obviously getting a massive overhaul. Wonderful project. Some restaurants are going in even on the south side. West side's growing like crazy. Some of these smaller towns are, flourishing because of it. People are moving here from out of state because they see the quality of living here. Iowa nice, right? Yeah. Iowa nice. You got quality of living. The standard of living is great with lower prices, by the way. So for me, I've been like, this is where I'm from anyway. Now it's easier to sell because I love it, right? And I've come to love it, and I see the future potential in this area. And I think I talked to a lot of other investors as well, and they're seeing it too, right? We're pretty much all in here. Yeah. So I own a few things like fractional shares in some of the other homes across the nation. But honestly, right now, growth here, right? Yeah. And we don't see another part of it is, like Sunbelt states, they see a lot of run-ups and appreciation and rent growth. Well, those same people forecast things wrong, right? Or correct. They would like to see that continue. Obviously, it doesn't happen. And then they kind of suffer over the next, like we kind of see now in the Sunbelt states, they're getting crushed.
They have much wilder swings, both up and down.
Right. And so for us here, it's been consistent growth, both in appreciation, kind of cash flow and rent growth. Yep. It's been fairly consistent. And that's what another thing the Midwest and Iowa in general brings is just that stable long-term growth. And another part is when all these massive cities around, like, I guess, outside of the Midwest continue to grow and kind of pop, as I'd say, where's affordability? It's still here.
Correct.
It's still here. So, I just love it here.
What are you most excited about this year, 2024?
Oh, boy. Pretty much everything. Pretty hyped up on just my family growing. Got 2 young kids. We're going to hopefully close on that kind of mixed use property here in the next couple of months. And that'll be seller finance. So that'll be my first time dealing with that. They've already got it fully leased top and bottom. So commercial on bottom is just office space. And then up top is residential units. I'm really excited about that, just to deal with folks that care about their properties, but take that over and really just continue to have great success in those smaller town, and a partner eventually with a few folks outside of, I'd say, the network right now of just kind of family, eventually getting into partnering with other folks that want exposure to real estate, that currently don't have it, right? They're primarily invested in the stock market or any, traditional method of investing, but really gaining a lot of the benefits real estate brings to the table that most of them don't even know about. But for the folks that do know, right, they're capitalizing and seeing those benefits. So I just really am passionate about it. I know people around me see that, and I'm really excited to, continue to partner with other folks down the road that really want to also grow and win together. So
Nick's been a fantastic conversation. I'm certain we could talk all day, but you ready for the final 3 questions?
Yes, sir, I am.
If you could give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
Start and go do, right? I think a lot of people get hung up in just thinking about things and pondering and reading, and right, all that's great, but do your homework and go do, and you'll learn along the way, period. So for me, thankfully, I did have, the leap of faith to just go trust in the process, right, and learn along the way. At the end of the day, you're going to figure it out.
2 books that changed your life.
Probably the Bible and Rich Dad Poor Dad. So those are 2 that I've really leaned on quite a bit, and just have foundationally great information and just life-changing books.
You got the Bible and the Bible of real estate right there.
Yes, sir.
If you were cast away on an island for a year, you could only get 3 pieces of data about your business, your rental business, each month. What 3 things must you know to know how your business is running?
Oh boy, 3 pieces. I'd probably say operationally, or the number, cash flow, is it consistent with kind of where we projected things to be? I would obviously indicate a lot of other things along the way, kind of hint at where we need to focus. 2 other things probably would be, are the tenants taken care of, period. Just ensuring that they're getting the quality of living that we set out to provide them. And third, figuring out ways that we can better help serve other people around. So just getting more data out there, and just finding other people to partner with that really have aspirations to provide great quality of service and living around here. So
Nick, I've asked you lots of questions so far. What's one question I did not ask, but I should have asked?
Oh, that is a good question. Maybe why. The question why, why start in the first place? And so just to answer, for me, it's a bigger picture of a long-term focus and projection into creating a passive and generational level of income that we can live off of, sustain kind of our financial success and freedom from. And also the bigger picture is create time back, and how can we spend time together? So for me, it's spending time with family, spending time with extended family, and those that I love and want to be around, and those that seek to grow. Those are a lot of my whys. I've got a lot more whys, but those are my primary ones.
Time, freedom, the ultimate wealth.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
The only thing we can't get back. For people who want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to connect with you, where should they go? What should they do?
Yep. So I've just started a kind of a smaller Facebook page called Premier Principal. A lot of more motivational things at this point, but really trying to build that out. So that's more Facebook focused. And then just my personal Facebook at this point, and Instagram, Weiland N66. But I'm going to be rolling out a few other things that folks will be able to get connected with me. But yeah, Facebook's the way to start, and just connecting there. And from there, I love to share any information that I can with others who, I guess, want to learn and grow. I'm always willing to find the time, make the time to ensure folks are taken care of and growing.
Fantastic. Links below in the show notes, everybody. Nick, appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? It does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, go to LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.